Well, it seems that the Canadian government is now flying helicopters over Universal Ostrich Farm in anticipation of culling almost 400 healthy ostriches. Viva Fry, former Montreal litigator turned current Florida rumbler, in my home office yet again with an update in the Universal Ostrich Farm story coming out of Canada. If you're new to the channel, you might not be familiar with this story, but if you've been around the channel for a month or more, you're well aware of what is going on in Canada. Anarcho-tyranny, nothing short of that. A brief recap of the situation is that there is this farm, an ostrich farm in Canada called Universal Ostrich Farm in British Columbia, about a year ago, and it's an important date, December 2024. Some of the ostriches on that farm died as the result of some illness. Seems that my wife is on her way to meet me while I do a car vlog. They tested 2 of those ostriches with PCR anal swabs and determined that those ostriches died from the H5N1 avian flu, and as a result, the entire flock needed to be killed, even the ones that survived the initial infection, whatever that infection was. The farm appeals the decision from the CFIA, which is the Canadian Food Inspection Agency. It's an administrative agency, a federal agency created that basically applies its own rules, interprets its own rules, and carries out the execution of the application of its own rules. And the federal courts themselves are very deferential to these administrative bodies that are created by the government because they allegedly, purportedly, have some sort of degree of specialty. So Universal Ostrich Farms appeals the decision. They seek an injunction from the court, which they get. About 5 months later, they have their hearing before the federal court to determine whether or not the kill order, the cull order from the CFIA was inherently unjust or unfair. 5 months later, a court determines that no, the CFIA's decision to order the cull of all of the ostriches was not fundamentally unreasonable. It's an administrative body that the federal courts must be deferential to, and that they can follow through with the kill, even though 5 months later, none of the birds are infected anymore. Just appreciate that timeline. The test was done in December 2024. By May, give or take, they get an order from the federal court saying, yeah, you can go ahead and kill them, because when they tested them in December 2024, we're now May 2025, it was reasonable then, and even though none of them are sick right now, kill all the healthy birds that actually survived whatever the outbreak was. The ostrich farm appeals that decision. They go to the Federal Court of Appeal in Ottawa, and they again lose, except now they lose in August 2025. We're 9 months out of the initial infection, 9 months out of the initial kill order, and the court says, no, you still need to kill 400 healthy birds. The farm is trying to get all the way up to the Supreme Court, and they got, I think for a very brief period of time, an interim stay of the affirmation of the kill order. That interim stay has now been over. Whatever interim stay they got is no longer in effect, such that the ostriches can be killed at any moment now. Here's the latest reporting as to the interim stay being denied. From CBC News, British Columbia Court of Appeal rejects BC Ostrich Farm's latest bid to delay cull of birds due to avian flu. Universal Ostrich Farm says last week's stay order preventing cull no longer applies, September 12, 2025. The Federal Court of Appeal has denied an application for another stay order to delay a cull of about 400 ostriches at a British Columbia farm that was hit by an outbreak of avian influenza, removing a legal block against the slaughter proceeding. You notice what's interesting is that they don't tell you when that outbreak was, because if they told you that outbreak was in 2024 and we are damn near the end of 2025 and they still want to kill these 400 birds that are healthy, that haven't been infected in the last 9 months, people might be rightly outraged, but the CBC is government propaganda. They leave out key details so as to not enrage the general public, a general public which should be enraged at this situation. Katie Pasitney, the spokesperson for Universal Ostrich Farm, said Friday's ruling means an interim stay granted last week to give the farm in Edgewood, BC, time to make legal submissions, quote, no longer exists, end quote. The Canadian Food Inspection Agency, CFIA, ordered the slaughter on December 31, 2024, during an outbreak of H5N1 avian flu that killed 69 ostriches. The only problem? We are now damn near a year out. None of the ostriches are infected, and indeed, they survived the outbreak, which means they might be of scientific value that Robert F. Kennedy Jr. in the United States of America acknowledges and asked to stay the cull order so that they can actually take the ostriches to do scientific experiments on them. The CFIA said, no, we need to stamp out the H5N1 by killing healthy birds that survived H5N1. And if you thought that was an egregious injustice, it gets even worse, because in the interim, the government has applied to file new evidence because they somehow went and retested the samples that they took in December 2024 and found found not only were these birds infected with the H5N1, they were infected with a particularly lethal strain, so it's even more important to kill them now, despite the fact that they're healthy and survived that lethal strain, even if true. From the Communist Broadcasting Corporation, haha, I'm just joking, CBC News, British Columbia. New analysis indicates higher lethality of avian flu at BC Ostrich Farm, CFIA vet. Universal Ostrich has been fighting a cull order imposed by federal authorities in court. This is one of those situations where even if it's true, it works against the government, not in favor of them. Even assuming they tested positive for some particularly lethal strain of the H5N1 in December 24, that they survived, well, that makes them even more important to determine how it is that they survived the particularly lethal form of H5N1. No, we don't want to know that. We want to kill them. An affidavit by Canada's Deputy Chief Veterinarian says new analysis has confirmed ostriches at a British Columbia farm that is fighting a cull order for its flock were sickened by a unique and more lethal strain of the avian influenza virus. The affidavit by Kathy Furness with the Canadian Food Inspection Agency, CFIA, says further investigation of samples taken from the birds revealed the, quote, novel reassortment, end quote, of the virus has, quote, enhanced the pathogenicity, end quote, of the strain. It says the strain was, quote, among the most virulent, end quote, tested at Canada's National Microbiology Laboratory, and even low doses killed mice within a few days. So the government goes back and retests its samples, magically discovers that it was even more lethal than they determined back in December 2024, which leads me to question how the hell they're doing their job in the first place if they omitted or missed that key fact back in December 2024. They go back and retest, say, oh my goodness, it's even more lethal than we thought it was. They ask the court to submit that new evidence into these proceedings. The court authorizes the government to submit new evidence, but denies Universal Ostrich Farm's request to submit additional evidence, because what's good for the goose is not good for the gander when it comes to the government. What's good for the government is good for the government, but you don't get those same rights as a defendant when they come to kill your animals. The court did not allow Universal Ostrich Farm to submit new evidence, even in response to the additional evidence that the government now supported. The cull order is apparently authorized to go through, and apparently, from video footage that I've gotten, helicopters were flying over Universal Ostrich Farm's property last night. How on earth they would go about killing 400 ostriches, even if they had to, I don't know what the logistics are going to be. If they're going to shoot them, which would cause panic, if they're going to decapitate them. These are 400-pound animals sometimes. They are strong enough to kill a lion. These birds, some of them, have been in the family of Universal Ostrich Farms for 35 years. The government seems hell-bent on killing them, despite requests from RFK Jr. to take these animals and do tests on them, because the Canadian government knows best. This is not about justice. This is not about health. This is about terrorizing a population, demoralizing a population, and showing the population you are subjects of a criminal government that will literally come in and kill your animals. As of now, the animals are still alive, and I am doing my best to put this on as much blast as possible. I've had a lot of friends in the internet world sharing this story, and thank you all very much. You know who you are. I am trying to get the attention of Elon Musk, Joe Rogan, because if Joe Rogan thought it was bad that you got fined $28,000 for going for a walk in the woods in Nova Scotia, he should know what the heck is going on in Canada as relates to the government killing your animals, because we were all outraged at the killing of Peanut the squirrel and Fred the raccoon in New York State. This is, I won't say exponentially worse, because animals are animals and they mean the world to their owners. This is very, very bad on a scale that we have not yet seen. And what's going to happen now? Are they going to come in and slaughter these animals? If they are, may it be live streamed for the world to see what the hell is going on in Canada. Anarcho-tyranny, nothing short of anarcho-tyranny. Now, if you're still watching this and you haven't liked, shared, and subscribed, I don't know what I've got to do to get you to do it. Like, share, subscribe, turn on notifications, share my stuff when it comes out, because YouTube is not even recommending my own videos to my own followers, but there's a solution to that, and it's called Rumble and vivabarneslaw.locals.com, where you can go support my work. But most importantly, exercise, eat healthy, sunlight, talk to people in real life, and my kid is back. Peace out, people. Booyah!